Okay, that was last hour. It took me that long to get through that. Now let's go to this hour. This is great because I just picked up with showing you chapter 7, those evangelists coming. Why does God send 144,000 Jewish evangelists into the world? Because the world is going to hell fast during the tribulation. Do you remember where we are? And this is going to be on all your quizzes and tests. We're right here. We're in the tribulation time. We've just finished off first hour. We were up there looking at the throne, and then we slipped into this, but now we're going to be in the tribulation for quite a while. The tribulation is when the hammer comes down, when God says, I'm not going to wait anymore. Why does God tell the church about this? Why did he spend to people suffering persecution at the Roman Empire? Why did he do that? Because he said, you're not there yet, but the world is going to get darker. You think your world is dark now? You think that Rome is chasing you down and hunting you? It's going to get worse at the end. So I'm going to show you that the same message Christ taught 2 generations ago, that the first generation church lived, that's written about in the Gospels, that you've only read about, I'm coming down to see if you're taking my word and believing it and living like it's true. Well, this is what his word said. And this encouraged the early saints. God says in chapter 6, I'm going to unfold this title deed. And then he pauses. This is what we call one of those parenthetical times in Revelation. This is the first one we're bumping into, so I'll explain it. God, here in chapter 7, then again in chapter 10, and then again in chapter 12, and then again, he pauses watching the action and steps back and explains something. He's explaining in chapter 7 this, that God, who temporarily set aside Israel, they denied Christ, they crucified Christ, God temporarily sets them aside. By the way, that's the horrible error of covenantal theology. Reformed, Christian Reformed, Dutch Reformed, Presbyterianism. They have a flaw biblically. Do you know what it is? They think that God got rid of, in fact, Martin Luther, he was one of them, a covenantalist. You know what Martin Luther wrote? He wrote a little book, and it was called To the German Nobility. What a title. To the German Nobility. You know what it said? You want to know the short Cliff Notes version? Kill the Jews. They killed Christ, you can kill them. That was Adolf Hitler's favorite book, written by Martin Luther, who believed God was done with the Jews. They were Christ killers. They have no future. In fact, most Reformed people say that Israel today has nothing to do with the Bible. Nothing at all. It's just a chance that they live in the same land, et cetera, et cetera. So my goal is only to say this. God temporarily set aside the Jews, but boy, are they coming back. They are going to be front and center. And they are going to be actually the evangelists they were always supposed to be. Only there's going to be 144,000 Apostle Pauls, not just one. Can you imagine that? Look how much trouble one caused. He turned the whole world upside down. There are going to be 144,000 just as zealous and focused and completely checking in with God every day, which is what all of us are supposed to be. And God, just like he wants to right now with us, he's going to unbelievably work with them. Well, let's watch that happen. God is always the Savior. Look at Revelation 7 and verse 1. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow. And another angel ascended from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice, and he said, don't harm the earth or the sea. Verse 3, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God. And on. He goes, what is going on here? God, it's the parenthesis, it's the pause. God is always a Savior. And God is showing us that before he kills 1/4 of all the people at once on earth, he's going to send these commandos. You want to be in special forces? These are the ultimate special forces. The 144,000 are God the Savior's personal representatives in the future. Guess what? We are God's current special representatives. They are going to be invulnerable. We're invulnerable till we finish his plan. So are they. Only they're going to go through the worst time Earth's ever known. It's interesting. It says, holding the four winds of the earth, that it should not blow on the earth. Did you know that it's interesting, verse 1 talks about the fact that God controls the air and the wind and everything. Do you know what God told Daniel to tell Belteshazzar in chapter 5 of Daniel's? I know you have Daniel. I think Paul Weaver teaches that. My favorite verse is 5:23, where it says, the God who holds your life's breath in his hands. Right here in Revelation, God causes the wind to stop blowing. Boy, does that scare people. You don't realize how much the slow movement of air keeps all the dust from not building up and all the smells from not building up, and it just kind of cools us off and everything. There are several times in Revelation where God stops the engine of atmospheric movement, and it scares people. Because he's reminding them, he is the Savior. He holds everyone's life's breath.